everyone. Devorah Esther here. Thank you for joining in for another edition of Talking Torah with Devorah. And today's guest has been here before. He is back to help us in a really trying time. I'm here with Rabbi Asher Baruch Wegbreit, who's here to help us kind of navigate a lot of what we're seeing and what we're hearing, and helping us to connect better with Hashem. If you have any thoughts or comments, please put them below. Please share this. A lot of people are just looking for some kind of guidance. I'm so happy that today's guest is on to help us. Rabbi, how are you? Thank you for coming back.
Sure, you're very welcome. I'm very inspired by your community, so I consider it an honor.
Thank you so much.
Sure. I'm sure I was partially selected because I live in Israel, and so we're definitely in front lines in that sense. And I put some thought into what we can do to help, because as I put it this way, Charles Dickens, he had a famous novel, A Tale of Two Cities. So he said the opening line was, "It was the best of times and it was the worst of times." So I said it's the opposite. It was the worst of times, but it is also the best of times, because we know the horror. I'll tell you a little bit how I experienced it. But with all that horror, the outpouring of love and concern for everybody. I get messages from people who are religious, not religious, Jewish.
I'm getting messages from old coworkers and old bosses.
Exactly. People are looking me up from the old days, not necessarily Jewish, everything.
Right.
And the message has been the same, at least what I've received. We are people who don't even understand the concept of prayer. We're praying for you. And is there anything we can do to help? And it's so touching and so inspiring. So that's what I'm saying. In a certain sense, it's the best of times. And as Devorah said, it's a really, literally crying shame that it had to be brought out this way, that Hashem felt that had to be the way things manifest. Okay, so let me give you a little bit about what's happening, and then some suggestions based on my work, what I do, on what we can do for Hizuk and to really help, because everyone wants to help, thank God. So I'll just give you a little my experience. Simchas Torah, in Israel, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, it's all wrapped in one. And so it's a day, the peak day of joy, the peak. It's a culmination. It's one of the happiest days of all time. And I davened an early minyan, and we were already at the Kriyas Torah, and we hear a siren. And I live in Jerusalem, Har Nof specifically, and I've been here 31 years, and prior to this past Shabbos, there was, give me a second, only 2 sirens that were actually heard in Jerusalem, okay? And I remember the first one, I was so scared. It was Shabbos evening and Kabbalat Shabbat, and they're singing, and one of my boys who I brought to shul wasn't there, and I'm like this, and they kept doing singing, and I'm saying, wait, there's a siren
now, right?
I'm an American. I'm not an Israeli. I wasn't prepared for all this.
Aww.
Right. So anyhow, but just in that prayer service on Shmini Atzeres, the sirens went off 4 times. 4 times. I was actually saying Kaddish, and I had to shout above the sirens. And also, you actually heard booms and felt the ground shake. Sirens throughout the day. We were only imagining what happened, and what else was happening. And then, there are Arab workers actually in the neighborhood, and they shared the extent and the horror of what was going on. Okay, it's really hard to put in words. I did also share with Devorah. And we are in a relatively safe location, Bezrat Hashem, and 4-year-old granddaughter, and the first two sirens, you can see she's disturbed, and then the third one, she just cried out. This little, you saw her, right? A little adorable little girl, 4 years old, just cries out. And these are very scary, heavy times. So that's a little background. And now let me tell you how I think we can help. And I think to remind people who've heard me speak with Devorah before, but let me tell people who don't, is my whole focus is to help. We say in the prayers that we request of Hashem, help us cling to your mitzvahs, right? Help us be, the word devekus, it's a beautiful word in Hebrew, but it means like attached like glue. So we request to be connected to the mitzvahs. And what I've been working on is showing how, if you're mitzvah conscious, if you, instead of mindfulness, you practice mitzvahfulness, and you look for what's going on right now is a chance I could do a mitzvah, and you have intention. It just, you feel like you're born again. I was born again, meaning I'm a Baal Tshuva, right?
Right. I know, which is a very, it's funny because a lot of our people technically were born again in the Christian faith and now have returned to the Jewish faith. So it's so funny you use that word.
Yes, that was intentional.
And exactly. I just want to make it clear, the rabbi is not a messianic rabbi, right? I just want to make that clear because our audience is like, oh my gosh, right? See, no.
No. I can't assure you how much. In fact, I've been involved in counter missionary things, and
which was really prevalent. I mean, prior to the war, the war has kind of consumed everything right now, but this was a really big issue. And I got to tell you, because and I spoke about this with Rabbi Cohen on a previous podcast, and we were talking about, a lot of missionaries, their whole goal really is to evangelize Jews, right? Because they believe if they do that, and then their Mashiach will come. And there is this whole replacement theology idea that has been out there. And a lot of people don't know this really started as Catholic anti-Semitic, rhetoric that was going on for centuries now. For centuries. This is not anything that there's just a recent idea. And, so it was a big problem. And Eretz Israel particularly, this was really going on. And I feel like sometimes that this really is the big holdup with some of the people in the Converso community, right? Because they've kind of been born into the system, and they've been indoctrinated to believe that there is only one way to the Mashiach. And, it's very difficult. It's mamish a nest that anyone comes out of that, because, I remember when I came out with the docuseries for the last Anusa, I put a segment in there about the elephant chains off of a documentary I had saw myself on circus trainers. And the question was put to them, how is it that they can get these massive elephants to be subdued by a simple chain that, mamish, if you really think about it, they can break just with right? And he said, it's really simple. If you put it on early enough when they don't have the strength, they will try, but after a while, it will break their mind into thinking they cannot. And once they do that, they stop trying, they give up. And I felt this is a lot like, and technically it's not just with Christian people, it's with everything. There's a lot of things that happen to us very early on. And, we do put up a resistance in the beginning, but because we don't have the strength yet, we have the will, but not the strength, then we somehow get broken into thinking it will never happen. And this is a very dangerous place, which is why even what you do is so important, because you're kind of refocusing people to put that strength back in with the will.
Yes, exactly. To speak to your community, because I do want to just speak to that for a second. It's when you can come out of that, it's amazing, because there is, unfortunately, I'm sure Representative Devorah is familiar, but there was a very famous French comedian, a Jewish comedian, who did something that for a Jew is so shocking. He decided to become a Catholic or something like this. And if you listen to why, so it says that when he was 7 or 8 years old, his parents didn't let him go in the church, so it's now a forbidden pleasure. And he goes in and he sees a statue of Mother Mary or whatever it is, right? And it touched him. It's so easy to be touched by a human being form, right? But it's not God. And for someone to know that this person loves you unconditionally, these things are so hard. Even when you discover they're false, I can imagine how hard it is.
I can tell you for myself. I can tell you that Momish went hard for Yoshka. Hard. I was on Christian radio. Like, I went hard, and I remember it was very devastating for me because the initial thoughts that I thought is that I had believed it so much that I questioned everything about all of my choices. Like, this was a whole crisis of identity.
I see.
And
Wow.
this was like, so it rocked me because I felt like, and I think what was so devastating was, like, you would start to see passages that, like, I had been reading the whole of the Old and New Testament like almost all my life. And all of a sudden I was seeing things. It was almost like I had been reading it like this, and all of a sudden everything was off. And even the mistakes, the errors, right? And even like, it was like my mind was, and even my husband, he came out and he said something, it was very profound, right? And he really wasn't, he had rejected Catholicism at like 17, way before he met me. And he said something, and it was mamish, like my tickle would have popped off when I heard. And he literally said, he goes, for me to believe that Yoshka is the Mashiach and the Son of God would mean that Hashem would have to violate his own Torah and be with a married woman. I mean, out of the mouth of babes, right? Like, I was like,
wow.
And
Exactly.
he like, and it was almost like he's right. Like, and the reason why I felt it was so profound is because I myself know how big Sniut is to Hashem. Right. And for a woman, it is the most important, which is why everybody says, why do you spend so much on clothes? Because it's the most important mitzvah. And the same way I spend $1,000 on, on tefillin, I want to beautify this mitzvah. And, it was like, for me to now comprehend that Hashem would have to violate his own right not to be with a married woman. And all of a sudden it was like, my goodness, and it would be little things like that it was like chipping away. And it was like, this is really false. Right. And then after that, it was like Hashem had to let me go through that. And then he brought all the rabbis who brought the actual proof of it. Right. And I was like, I remember being so devastated because I was so certain. Right. And I don't consider myself a stupid girl by any means. Right. And I feel like it's very hard to bamboozle. Like, you have to get up really early in the morning. Right. Like, and I felt so bamboozled, like so bamboozled. And then the more I kept seeing in the Torah from the Hebrew, right, and having it broken down, and just the mathematic precision with the gematria, I was like, this has to be the truth. And it was funny because it was like I was going through that, and yet I had this separate side thing with my family and their Jewish lineage. It was like Hashem allowed me to come through of my own volition and to choose him for myself. And by the way, you just happen to have a Jewish neshama.
Wow.
So it was amazing. A very profound experience, but I still can remember what it was like. And so sometimes when I speak to someone, I have to be cognizant because I remember what it was like. I remember, and a lot of times when they're coming to you and they're trying to evangelize you, it really has nothing to do with a hatred or Mamish. I think they think they're coming from a great place. Right. And in fact, most Christians do love Jews. Right. Wow. But I just like, and you're like, my gosh, do you want me to devastate your world now? or later. Because the truth
Right.
is, it's so it really was profound for me. But this is something that a lot of people, especially viewership on this channel, are perhaps struggling with even now.
Yeah. And yeah, I also offer people, because I did a lot of research, and you should know also, the thing is, like that expression born again, like much of Christianity, the things that are there are parts they take it from us. The Rabbeinu Yonah says, when you
I
do
know.
it, you're like a newborn baby, so it's really Jewish. Okay, so back to Israel. Okay. um Here's something I want to explain is, if you ask rabbis and rebbitzins, you will hear a very consistent recommendation, because like I said, people are saying, what do we do now? How can we help? What do we do? So you will hear, say Tehillim, pray, learn Torah, do mitzvot, do tzedakah, charity. And it's a consistent message, and it's 1,000% correct. Okay. But look, we live in a physical world where there's no question that every single soldier and soldierette that is out there right now are putting their lives at risk in a very dangerous situation, and they don't know what Hashem has in store for them. So it's easy for people to recognize these people are doing incredible efforts, to help the Jewish people survive. What's harder to understand is, because it's not physical, is the impact of what everyone's saying. Tehillim, Torah, tzedakah, we don't know, because it's not physical. But I'm going to help with that, okay? Because and it's really the Maharal Miprag that helps with this, okay? There's a non-Jew who actually understands mitzvos much better than we will ever, okay? Guess who he was? Bilam.
This is
Bilam.
true, right?
Yeah. So Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet. So listen, it's very, very interesting. It says, when he's looking at the Jewish people, and he starts to have prophetic visions, and he's describing the Jewish people in the future, and so he has a vision, and he says like this. He says, you will arise like a lion against your prey. Now, I don't know how many people know about lions. I do, because I went to South Africa, and they took me on there's a lion park, and this is very heavy. You look at a lion, and he's called the king of beasts, as we know, right? And even in Torah, there's this concept. So I found that, the person taking me said, whatever you do, don't roll your window down, in the lion park. You know why? This is very heavy, okay? The day before I came to the Lion Park, a Chinese reporter rolled their window down, and I'm sorry to say this, but a lion went like that with its claw and took their head off.
Wow.
It's very heavy. I'm sorry, but I need you to appreciate the fierceness and the power of a lion. Okay? Incredible. So listen to this. What was Bilam when Bilam described us as being rising like a lion and having that force? So you would think that might mean military force. And Onkelos, right, the Targum Onkelos, he makes it like that. But you know what Rashi describes? He says, when the Jews get up in the morning and they pray shacharit, and they put on a talit and to daven, that's a lion. You hear this?
Right.
What's the
It's hard,
connection?
right?
I ask anybody, does anybody get up in the morning and feel that's a description of their thing? But he knows better than we do. He saw the spiritual world as it is. And so the Maharal explains. He says it makes perfect sense when you understand something. The word Devorah you can translate it as might, and that's accurate. But it particularly means a kind of might of overcoming an enemy and crushing an enemy. It's a tremendous force of
I have
power.
a portion of that name, Devorah. Does that mean
Yeah,
I have a little bit of that in me?
yeah, right. Yeah. From my little experience with you, I think it's true. So we're talking about the Maharal says this: mitzvahs have tremendous force and might because they're Elokit, they're divine. When you do an action, it's not a weak little ritual. It's drawing down divine force, right? Earthquake, tsunamis, right? That's Hashem's might. So if you will, Hashem attaches his might, if you will, in a spiritual sense, to our actions that are called mitzvahs. So when someone says, learn Torah, say
Pretty
Tehillim,
powerful.
unbelievable, crushing power, immense power. So we have to first realize that when we make such efforts like that, we live in a physical world, so we don't realize what it's causing and what's happening.
And
Okay.
that's the illusion, because we are in a physical world. So because we don't see it, right? Like we appreciate what we can touch and what we can feel, and it's very disillusioning.
And it's hard now because we're in Golos. Because when we were even before the base of Migdash, listen, I'll just tell the story if the people don't know it. It's in the Gemara. Is everyone's heard of David and Goliath, right? So David beats Goliath. Goliath has a brother, and he's big, and he wants to kill David. This is all in the Gemara. I'm not making this up. It would be a great story. So he ambushes David. He takes like a sword, and he sticks it into the ground, and he throws David up in the air, and David is on his way by the force of gravity to be impaled. Now Hashem gave his top general Eov, I forget. Okay, he gave his top general Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, and he realized what was happening, and what did he do? Listen to this. He said the shame of Hashem. He said the name of Hashem, which is Torah. He used the name of Hashem, which caused David to be suspended in the air and gave him enough time to kill Goliath's brother. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, that is, so we saw it one time. There was such a thing where people through the Torah, and there's a story of the Vilna Gaon that there was he was staying in an inn, and there was a break-in, and there were these robbers or something like that, and it was Shacharit, and he had his tefillin on. They looked at his tefillin, and they fled, right? Because he was wearing the tefillin with such kavana, and it says in the Torah that your enemies will be afraid of you when you wear tefillin. So you hear these things are much more
and
powerful.
I wanted to say for the women too, because they know on this channel, like if you don't know, you're about to get like we call in Spanish a bimbaso, a knock, right? But we say that when the women cover their head, it is also like tefillin as well.
Wow.
So women can really also benefit. And we spoke about the power of tzniut and how far-reaching. We also said it should not be a surprise that when the tzniut of the women each generation went down, so did the protection of Am Yisrael went down, and thus the world. Like really,
right.
Right. So there is real power in this. So I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, we just don't see it directly. So that's why you have to know that it's not a small thing when you hear dress neously, say Tehillim, do these things. Devorah, in tremendous, powerful divine might, is activated. So that's number one. Can you help? Profoundly. Okay. So just my first message is don't underestimate the spiritual efforts to help our Jews who are in great danger and trouble right now. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, also, so now I want to explain, and this is the famous word is a hack. I have a hack that's very it's really incredible, and this is what my program is about. Is we actually get paid for what we think, meaning to say that you have let's say you have a think tank. They're paid for the research they produce or the recommendations they,
Correct.
but we get paid. If you think that really the success of the Jewish people, the army in Gaza, is up to the creator of the world, you will be paid handsomely for that thought. In other words, when you just think Hashem runs the world, there are no other gods. There's never been a God that's been a man or a woman or anything like this. When you believe these things, these are mitzvahs that have profound, as we said, divine might.
I want to say something because you and I were speaking privately before, right? And I'm reminded of something, and slicha to the rabbi that said it, and he's long passed away, but I read on the Shabbos in the early hours, and I read this story, and it was saying about how a rabbi, and I don't know if it was in the days of the Holocaust or something of this nature, but somebody had grabbed him and threatened him with a gun to his head. And he said something that was so life-changing, and you just reminded me of it. And I think it's exactly what I needed to hear in this time. And I'm hoping that it will have the same effect when I say it to others who are watching. And that is, he said to the person who had the gun in his head, to a person who serves many gods, your threat scares them. To a person that serves one God, your threat doesn't scare me.
Wow.
And I thought that, I mean, I'm so glad that you brought it up, because it reminded me. I feel like those words are coming back for a reason.
Beautiful.
And I think that that's the focus. Like, what the rabbi's always talking about, and I'm gonna put a link to his channel as well, to his website, so you can learn a little bit more. We have to refocus and realign what we're putting our thoughts into. And I think one of the things that we have to keep in the forefront of our mind, especially in this time, is that Hashem is one, and He is running the world, even though it looks like it's a chaos, right? And where's Hashem? Did He go to lunch? Chas v'shalom? That's not what's happening, and it's very hard. Mamish, it is very hard, especially if you're not learned in the Torah, to really get frightened very easily. But if there's a simple way, it's that statement that this rabbi said. And Bezrat Hashem, Bli Neder, I'm going to try to look, and I'm going to somehow post it, whether it's later on in the description page. I want to put who put this, because I think that these words, that he should get credit for these words, and Hashem should give him credit for these words. His neshama should have, Elul Nushmat. I mean, because it is so profound if we really can wrap our heads around the fact that when we serve one God, we are reminded that everything is in His hands, right? And everything is for the good, even if we can't see it. And I know that's so difficult for so many who are hurting, for so many who've lost loved ones, for so many who are afraid. Please, let's take a moment to just be in those words, to be with Hashem, just to be still in that, right? Just to be still in that thought that Hashem is in control. So, Rabbi, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, and you just reminded me something I'd like to share. That is a powerful statement. I want you to send it to me too, please.
I will.
It also it's so relevant to another thing. This is in I found it. I use this in the book on Aleinu. There was a famous yeshiva called Devorah in Europe, a Musar yeshiva, and there was a 14-year-old yeshiva student, and it was in the war, and a Russian person pulled a gun on him, and he says, "Be afraid, because you're about to die." So the boy says, I may or may not die, but I'm not afraid, because it is Hashem that will decide whether I live or not. And the Russian soldier was so blown away that he actually ended up following this student, and he converted to Judaism.
I read your book recently, And I'm going to go back because I wonder maybe it's the book that you wrote.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm gonna look. You know, this is so funny because I did recently read Elena and I did want to have you on about it. And it was like, you know, I got caught up in this documentary. I'm gonna look and Mamish, like it's so look, so Hashem already answered, right? So we're gonna find the name of who said this and we're
Right,
gonna
right.
clean it
Could
up.
be, could
So you
be.
should give credit because it's such a profound
Right,
statement. I mean,
right.
Mamish, you know, a lot of us, you know, we there's an immediate threat, but it's not the way this guy who has a gun, like now Mama Shaitan.
Right,
It's really happening, right?
right.
For him to come out with that, I thought
Yes,
like,
yes.
you know, this is Am Yisrael. Like listen, I want this courage, but I pray that I never should have to use that kind of like I don't Mamish, like I'm, you know, I believe, listen, I have so much Yirat Shemaim, especially what's going on, right? And I think, and I spoke, and I said this to you before we came on. My my fear is not about I because I feel much like this man who said this, right? My fear is that Has v'shalom, that there's something in my file in the Shemaim, right? That's what concerns me. And that's why I'm saying it is so important that we do, right? Cry out to Hashem, make that tshuva. Like, Hashem, please, like, let, you know, I got it. This is the warning, right?
Um,
Help me send that message to me in a way. And I always say to Hashem, because Mamish, I'm like, Hashem, I don't know, maybe I tie my mitbacha too tight. Sometimes I don't understand. So you have to break it down for me, like in a way that I can understand it. It's clear. This is what I need you to work on. Right.
right.
And because I want, Mamish, I really want to do my best to be the best version that I know Hashem. Because Hashem didn't ask me to be Moshe Rabbeinu or Sarah Mena. He asked me to be Devorah Esther, right? And I want to be the best of that. But I know that there are times it's not just accidental sin. There's times where I have intentional sin. And it's not because I want to be rebellious. It's because, Mamish, I have like a weakness. You know, I'm also, you know, and so that is what really concerns me. And I'll be quite honest with you. It didn't have to be this. I would be concerned that Has v'shalom, like, you know, you have to break your leg or whatever. You know, I feel sorry that Hashem has to do that, you know. So but I got to tell you, since this war broke out, where I had Yirat Shemaim, it's off the Richter scale right now because it is very like you said beautifully, Hashem is not there to because you missed a word in Elenu. I'm gonna put right. That's not what Hashem does. But nonetheless, there are consequences, right? And I don't need to go to the cleaners, right? Because I accidentally spilled something, or I did spill. You know, I don't want to go to the cleaners.
Right.
I want to do the best, and I want to help others do the best, right? Because I know that also, like Hashem really loves that. And I really want to help others be their best. And I get it because it's very difficult. Mamish, I didn't grow up from birth. And even if I was from birth, they also have problems and they also have Yetzirah, right? So, but I got to tell you that I feel a close connection with Hashem, that I really do love him, right? I really do love him. And I do want to be my best version for him. And I truly want to help other people do the same, which is also why I bring people who I feel are emet, right? That they can also help. I don't have all the answers. So I try to bring other people on who have answers as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you say you feel a lot because I think you also sense that if Hashem's giving us personally or the Jewish people, we know where Hashem's coming from. He just wants us to get what we came for. He wants us to be who we can possibly be. And that's, I think, the healthy approach to tshuva and the thing that's being asked. So, okay, so here's the, like I call it a bit of a hack, okay? But let me tell you something amazing also about kavanot and mitzvot, and that'll lead us into a simple strategy I want to give everybody, where you can have great impact like in a minute, and you could keep doing it. All right. So to introduce that, I want to point out this. You know, I'm very happy that I don't. There's a very famous woman's writer, Rebbitzin Sarah Rigler. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's written a lot of very wonderful story, like a book about the righteous woman. And anyhow, she's collaborating with me to write a book for Art Scroll about Kavanah mitzvahs.
Oh, Baruch Hashem, I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, me too. So the thing about it is, she said something beautiful. There used to be the expression of separation of church and state.
Yes.
So she avoided that, but she says, when we are praying, we look ourselves as religious, and then we go to work, all right? And so there's the religious, and then there's the secular day, part of the day, right? And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't have to be that way, because work, I gave a class recently, work has 3 profound mitzvahs. To actually serve in the world is a mitzvah. To trust that that despite your efforts, it will be up to Hashem, that's a mitzvah you get when you work, right? Is like you make your effort and you realize success is in Hashem's hands. And kindness, you're either helping bring money into your family, or you're helping the clients, or whatever it may be, right? So there's not, religious and secular parts of your life. It can all be holy. Everything you do and things you enjoy. Ice cream. I can tell you mitzvahs in ice cream. Okay, there's a mitzvah to love Hashem with your.
I think we're going to get a lot of comments about what's the mitzvah, Rabbi.
Okay. So it says that Hashem gives us 2 inclinations, a Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, right? A good inclination and it's called evil, but the Rambam says it means physicality. Human physical beings get hungry. They like sweet food, right? So what you can do is you can serve Hashem with that ice cream by saying, Hashem, I love you. And I don't just want the spiritual side of me to connect to you. I want the physical side. And so here, l'chaim, and then you eat the ice cream. You hear? That's just one. There's
now,
more.
did you just give me permission to have chocolate cake and all these?
Right. There's maybe some other countervailing mitzvahs at times, like taking care of your health.
I think control is also mitzvah, right? It's mitzvah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a mitzvah to take care of your health. But on Shabbat, for example, eating on Shabbat is a mitzvah. It's a tremendous mitzvah to enjoy it to the hilt, right? So anyhow, my point is, so this is a setup that there's really what's so amazing and so what Hashem shows in the Torah. He wants all life to be a means of connecting to Him. No, there's just no like, okay, now I'm with Hashem, and now it can all be spiritual, uplifting, holy. Every part of us can connect. It's just that was one of the most incredible discoveries I made when I started working on this. So here's the thing I want to point out. I want to channel or harness some of the emotions people have and actions people have right now. Okay. The first one is when you hear about suffering, a normal human being, unlike these beasts, that is such an insult to beasts.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, beasts don't even do this. Like, it's right. It's like demonic.
Right. So the thing is this: when we hear about suffering, right, it hurts us. Like you said about you need to cry, etc. It's hurtful. It hurts us. It's a natural reaction, especially a Jew and this includes converts. There's certain midot that Hashem imbues us with, of like compassion and kindness. Oh, these are the 2 I want to speak about. So we feel compassion when we hear about the suffering people. And I'm hearing this. Everybody's like, oh, it breaks my heart. What can I do? Right? So I want to show you how you can make that natural feeling, that aspect of you, it's actually part of your connection to Hashem. Okay? I want to channel that into a mitzvah. And we said the mitzvahs are powerful, right? The other thing is there is such inspiring kindness taking place. and charity. It's just unbelievable. My wife is on a volunteered to be on a suicide hotline with people in the South. She has like a young woman who's, it rings and it rings at night and all these times. And I'm just sharing the things I know in my own family. My son has this beat up car, and he has friends with beat up cars, and they're driving to different bases because people are WhatsApping. We need a charger. We need something, food, and my son says, first of all, I'm so inspired. My son, it's just, he's like, wow. And then he says, Abba, you wouldn't believe everybody. There's so many people out trying to help and do these things. It's what people are realizing is helping others is intoxicating. It's exhilarating because it's a deeper pleasure than physical. It's coming from the spiritual, coming from our souls, our neshama. So, right. So there's a goodness. People like to help in trouble, and it feels good, and it's beautiful and wonderful. Okay. But the thing is, I want to take our natural, right? And like I say, show you how you can make it a mitzvah, even more of a mitzvah than it is. Because here's the thing, when you do the thing naturally, right? So it's a beautiful aspect of you, but are you thinking about the reason I'm doing this is because Hashem wants me to do these things? If I have a starting point that I want to bring nachas to the one who made me and does such good for me. I want to help his children. So you bring Hashem in the picture, you bring holiness into the picture, and it's a deeper action than just a natural action. Natural actions are profound, and people will be rewarded for them. If you just do kindness, because that's how you feel, it will do good and you will receive good without question. But do you hear, Devorah, how much more when your stimulus and your catalyst is Hashem, and you're doing it like you said, Hashem's like calling us up to war now, right? Calling us up to service. So when you link it like that, so that's what I want to show you how we can do that. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me show you something. I want to share this. Okay, this is my hack how we can help.
And by the way, while the rabbi is looking for that, I want to just say that we're going to be linking down his website so you can learn more about how to do this.
Okay, tell me if it's is it up? Okay, CPR. Okay, this is what we can do right now. I don't care where you are. You can be in Connecticut, everywhere. We can do CPR. We can be what I like to call first responders. Okay, because we hear about these things, the way the world's set up. Sometimes, Devorah said, maybe you can update us on the situation. I said to myself, she probably knows more than I do what's going on here. That's the way things are, right? So here, the CPR stands for, in spiritual terms, right? We're giving spiritual first aid, care, prayer, repair. These are 3 mitzvos that we can do to help, right? Everyone's saying, what can we do, right? Care, prayer, and repair. So let me explain. And okay, so the first thing is this. I said to you, to feel pain and for the suffering of others, compassion is a beautiful human quality. Okay, it's beautiful, and you can raise it to another level by consciously doing it as a mitzvah. Hashem tells us we need to share the yoke, the burden, and the suffering and the travails of our fellow Jew. Okay, right? Empathy is a Torah commandment. Is to empathize with people who are suffering is a tremendous, tremendous action, even if they don't know. I'm just going to tell you something incredible from a well-known rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak Breitowitz. May he live and be well. So he explained that when you are a Jew and become a Jew, the roots of our soul are all one. And there's this concept that there's like 600,000 splinterings of it, but we're all one soul, physically we're separate, right? But deep down inside, we're all connected, right? And we see this under suffering. There's been terrible tension between the right and the left in Israel and the religious, and then it's been a mess, but now, it's just amazing that the barriers are dropping, and we're seeing we're all connected. And so the thing is this, says Rabbi Wegbreit, even certainly if my other son, I'm proud of him, he's been going to the to what is it, comfort mourners. There's these people, terrible, they've lost children at war, and this one family from France, they don't know anybody here, and they lost their son. So he went, and there was, guess what, there was 200 other people came to comfort them.
Beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful? So the thing is this, certainly when a person, you're talking to a person, you're present, it's obvious that our empathy helps them. But it says for Brayu, it's because our souls are connected. Even if all the pain that I'm sure all your listeners and you have felt for people, the souls of the other people know it and are relieved a bit. Okay, so I'm trying to say how powerful that is. But here's my point. This is so simple. Okay. If I hope that this will be useless, okay, and Hashem brings the Mashiach and they won't have it. But if the war continues, right? But if the war continues, and if you hear about suffering and you think about these poor people who've lost children, or babies, it's so tearing. Those feelings, what you should do with those feelings is, Hashem, I know I feel this because thank God I'm like privileged to be a human being who has sensitivity for others and not cruelty. Thank you for giving me that endowment. But I want this endowment to be dedicated to you, meaning I know you command me to empathize and feel the pain of others. So when I hear this news that's troubling, I'm going to go like this and go, Hashem, I feel terrible for them. And I empathize as you command me, right? You've just brought in that lion. In other words, the act that is a natural act, right? It's a great act, but when you connect Hashem to it, it's incredible. Okay, so that's number one. But all you have to do is, if you cry, you groan, anything, that groan can be holy. Right? That moan and groan can be holy. So let's send it as a gift to the other Jews who are suffering, and let's serve Hashem through it. Okay, so that's care. The mitzvah is sharing the yoke. And also, I can send you a copy so you can make this available also to the people. Next, prayer. Okay, so we think of prayer. I like I said, I want this to be a hack. Okay, meaning to say, you have the Shemona Esrei, right, where you're concentrated, focused prayer, 18, 19 brachas. You have Tehillim. And Tehillim, if you have the time, everybody knows that King David, with Ruach HaKodesh, wrote the most impactful. It's like you hook up to his deep feelings and soul, and you connect to Hashem. So I will never tell you, if you have time to say Tehillim, it's the best. But I want to make this easy, because sometimes, we get requests all the time. What's it? Please daven for X. Please, all you need to do is say, Refuah Shlema, right? Or you hear about some soldiers. You go, Hashem Yerachem. Hashem should have compassion on them. Hashem should protect them. Those two words, and you can say it in English if you're not good in Hebrew. Hashem should heal them. Hashem should protect them. Hashem should help them, right? You just fulfilled the Torah commandment, because in times of trouble, every prayer you say is the Torah commandment. It teaches that in times of trouble, you should cry out to Hashem. Okay, so there you go. Oh, mitzvah. again, right? Hashem, help them, mitzvah. And then finally, repair. That's tshuva, what you're talking about, Devorah. Now, again, there's the ideal way, but there is the hack, okay? And I just want to make it easy and people can build, and they can do this quickly and all the time. So the ideal way is Rabbeinu Yonah from Spain, right? Rabbeinu Yonah, 20 principles. If you follow the path he sets out, you will be such a lofty and enlightened human being. It's just incredible. So that's the ideal, right? Then we have what, like on Yom Kippur, the basics are, right? Feel regret, we call it vidoy, right? Confess, pledge to not do it again, right? And stop sinning, okay? It's like a 4-step process. But, you know, even a little bit of tshuva is something. It's called hirhore tshuva, thoughts of tshuva, feelings of tshuva. So if you just say, if you just do like this, let's say, you know, somebody gets angry at their children, right? They snap at it, say, oh, you know, I gotta stop doing that. That can be, if you send that to Hashem, that's a level of tshuva. Just regret. You know, they say it's a famous Gemara in Kedushin that a wicked person can get engaged on a commitment. He's wicked. He says, I want to get engaged with you on condition that I become a righteous person. And that just expressed desire, it's a valid Kedushin. That's how much Hashem weighs a thought of tshuva. This should make you feel good, you know, is just a mere thought of tshuva. So should you pursue the thought? Should you follow? Of course, great. But we can do this. CPR, you hear? What can I do? So what I want to say to you is, so when you pray, right, and it can be a natural expression of your goodness, right? I'm telling you, people don't even know, never use the word prayer in their life. Say to me, we're praying for you and your family, right?
So
right. It's amazing. So we see it's in there, right? So the point is take that. People, like I said, people are inspired to help right now. Helping is a mitzvah of kindness, right? So saying, I'm helping, of course, I feel inspired, but Hashem, I know you command me, you want me to do kindness, so I'm doing it because this is your will, right? When you add that, you are strengthening the Jewish people so much because you're really, really creating a bond between us and our Father in heaven.
Well, Rabbi, this has been so inspiring. And I want to let people know, if you want to learn more about what the rabbi is teaching, please, I'm going to put a link log on to his page. The link on, Rabbi, it has been, I wanted to have you on for Aleinu. You know, I got caught up in this documentary. I'm so happy that Hashem, first of all, I want to thank you, but I want to thank Hashem. Because I feel like, you know, Hashem put it this way, he just injected a lot of Hizuk through this conversation today. And I think sometimes even Hashem has to, like, you know, put me on a timeout, right? And refocus me. And I'm so glad that he did it. And I'm so appreciative that he did it through you. And I hope that this also has been what it's been for other people who are watching as well. Because, you know, it's like, it's okay to be sad, like the rabbi said, it's okay to have that moment. But I think that, you know, we need to be able to refocus and get back to the job. And we will get through this together. Rabbi, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing this hack, right? I love a good hack. You know, and I really hope to, you know, to have you back on again in happier times, especially. Like, I hope that we should be out of this soon, Bezrat Hashem, and hopefully that Mashiach has come. And I hope in the meantime, I hope that you've enjoyed this program. I hope that wherever you are, whether you're a soldier, a mom, in Eretz Yisrael over here, wherever you are in the world, I pray that this would be a time of unity for all of us, to put our differences aside, and just to help one another, right? At the end of the day, we are all mishpacha. So I want to thank you, Rabbi. And that's it for today. And I hope we'll all be together again soon, Bezrat Hashem.
All right, take care. It's my privilege. You're very inspiring. You gave me hizzik.
If you've enjoyed this video or know someone who would, please share it. Sikul mitzvot. Click subscribe to be notified of upcoming episodes.